Okay, so a little while back, I did a video talking about, like, the next Marvel character that needs an Insomniac game, would be Daredevil. It should be Daredevil. But there's another character that also rings true of this character works so well as for Insomniac to really play with. It's a character that has a major following behind them. So yeah, Blade. Now, preference, before I go any further, my friend Mount Vernon Kid and I are going to do a collab video talking about our top 10 Marvel characters that should get an Insomniac game. So we are going to do a video at that. I just figured, you know what, I did Daredevil, and we're probably going to talk about Blade together in that video and go more in depth. So I figured, you know what, let's just do a quick video talking about, like, how cool it would be, because I just couldn't get it out of my head of how you could do a Blade game. So let's get started. Let's do this. So, how would you do a Blade video game in this universe? Well, I would have it that this is more like the seedy underbelly, like, Blade is usually distance away from the other heroes, like, yeah, there's, like, you know, they know about him, but they don't trust him because, like, they don't know much about him. Like, yeah, they know they know vampires are real, but, like, they don't know what Blade is capable of. So I would have it that Blade kind of, like, keeps away from the rest of the Marvel universe, kind of like he does in most Marvel comics, where he's just kind of on the outskirts hunting vampires. So in this story, this would be very interesting, because this is my pitch for the story of this game. My pitch would be, Blade is looking for the Darkhold, and there's a reason why. If you don't know what the Darkhold is pretty much like Marvel's Necronomicon. And in this story, Blade is looking for it for one thing, the Montesi formula. If you don't know what that is, the Montesi formula was basically a spell that actually rid the world of vampires, including Dracula, in the Marvel Universe for decades. Literally, that storyline was a Doctor Strange storyline that involved Blade, and what happened was that, yeah, there were no vampires in the Marvel Universe until, like, the late 80s. No, really, there were no vampires in Marvel for ages. Yeah, so I think that'd be kind of cool, is that Blade is searching for, he finds out while hunting vampires, like, there's this thing called the Darkhold, and he's discovered that there's this thing called the Montesi formula that can end vampires forever, and he can go out and find it. Now, along the story, I would have, of course, different species of vampires, because in Marvel, there are different clans and tribes and species of vampires out there. And this would be like a world tour for Blade, where Blade would go from Britain. People forget that Blade is he's not from America. He's actually from, he's actually a British citizen. He's actually from London. So I would have it like the game starts in London, and like maybe the first character you kill is like a vampire trying to be like Jack the Ripper, and that would be like your first character to kill. Go into like a club and just start slaughtering like a rave group of vampires, something like that. Now, like I said, this would be like a road trip, and each area, like each land you go to, like to South America, to like deeper parts of Europe, you would encounter different vampires with different abilities and different powers. Because yeah, in the Marvel Universe, there are just different species of vampires, so you would have a wider range of opponents for you to take on. So there's just like a whole box of characters you can really play with. Now, as for other characters showing up in the game, there is also like a good amount of characters you can really use for Blade to like interact with. You've got Hannibal King, a vampire detective. You've got Quincy Harker, the actual son of Mia and of the son of John Harker. Yeah, those two from the actual Dracula novel. That character is canon in the Marvel Universe. So yeah, Quincy Harker, there's one for you. You can have him in there. You can have the members of the people who, like, the group that called themselves the Darkhold, who, like, looked over the book. You could have Jack Russell, the Werewolf by Night, in here as, like, an ally. Of course, you'd have Morbius here, but I'm pretty sure Morbius is good, and that would be your Spider-Man Your Spider-Man game connection is Morbius. Like, you could have Morbius as like an enemy first, and then like realize, oh, he wants to use the Montesi formula to save himself, like, because he's like, well, I've run out of, like, I know I'm not a real vampire, but like I've run out of options to cure myself, so I guess I'll use the Montesi formula to purify myself, and I'll help you if you do that, if you make me human again, Blade. Yeah. So, like, I would have him meet, like, the story, you could have him meet Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, like, all the supernatural characters, and honestly, I would use this Blade game as a way to, set up a real Midnight Suns game. Or is it probably, just so they wouldn't have any confusion with Midnight Suns, they would probably call it Spirits of Vengeance. That was, like, the second incarnation, like a pseudo-incarnations of Spirits of Vengeance, where in that story, it was Blade, Hellstorm, who I'd also have in here, his sister Satana, also maybe make a cameo, and John Blaze, Ghost Rider. And I would have these, like, he would run into Blade would run into these characters throughout the game, and just, like, Blade would springboard, like, either other supernatural characters getting a game, and slowly build up to a Spirits of Vengeance game. Again, I would call it Midnight Suns, but we're already doing that with, like, a pseudo version of that in the game, so just call it Spirits of Vengeance so you don't have to, like, confuse anyone. Now, now we talk about the villains. Now, Blade has only had really 2 villains that anyone cares about. There are other characters who have given Blade fits, but really, he's never really had much of a rogues gallery. There's really only 2 characters. So, you would kinda need to put the 2 characters in here. Deacon Frost and Dracula. Dracula would obviously be the big endgame boss, but Deacon Frost would be your secondary boss. Like, he would be the penultimate boss character you'd fight, and then after you kill him, you can take on the final boss, Dracula, to get the Darkhold and use the Montesi formula. However, I would have a moment in this game where I would have, like I said, I would use Morbius as a boss character before he becomes an ally. I would have a moment in this game where Blade is reading the Darkhold, even though the researchers tell him, don't read it, let us handle it first, the Darkhold can really fuck with your mind. So when Blade doesn't listen to that, Blade opens the book, he starts reading from it, and gets hit, and like his mind gets invaded by Chthon, who is the creator. He's like an eldritch god creature who created the Darkhold. So I would actually have, like, in a mindscape, a boss battle of Blade fighting Chthon, and if he loses, he'll take over Blade's body. So I would have Chthon in here as a boss fight character. Now, the other thing I would have in here is, like, weapons, I guess you could say, like, weapons upgrades. Like, I would definitely have, like, a weapons upgrade system of something of that nature. Because obviously Blade is a very tool-oriented character, so I would, like, you can upgrade the swords, you can upgrade, like, the crossbows, knives, the blades, the throwing stars he uses, and even, like, fashion new weapons. Like, I'd really love to play with the game mechanics of, like, upgrading and, like, customizing your weaponry to fight these vampires. Like, you could have, like, stats like, okay, this hurts this type of vampire, but it's kind of doesn't have a lot of damage against this vampire. It'd be something like that. Like, you would be customizing your weapons, kind of like in, like, how you could customize your lightsaber in Fallen Order. Jedi Fallen Order, or something of that nature. Another game mechanic I think I would really like to use, another fun gaming mechanic I would really love to use in this story, in this video game, is a Bloodlust, like a Bloodlust mechanic. I would really love to use, like, a full-on Bloodlust mechanic where, you would obviously need to consume blood. Because that's the drawback for Blade, is that he needs to consume a great amount of blood to survive. That's part of his thing. Now, he doesn't, like, constantly need it, but he does need it. So I would have, like, you can consume blood from like blood packs or something, but also there's like a bloodlust, like if you're like you can feed off of somebody in the game, you can feed off some random person, and that makes you like, it's kind of like Infamous, where you go down a route too much and it just corrupts you. So that would actually determine the outcome of the game as well, where in that game, if you go the good ending, you end vampires forever. Like, you kill Dracula, you end the vampire reign forever, and yeah, humanity saved from vampires forever. But however, if you give in to your bloodlust too much, you more or less have Blade kill everyone else there. Like, you could have Doctor Strange there to prepare the formula. Blade just takes out his sword, just kills Steven, and then just poisons the Montesi formula, makes himself no more powerful vampire, and becomes the new Lord of all vampires, taking Dracula's place. So something like that. Like I said, like, you could do that like with Infamous, like something along the like, just follow the path of like Infamous, and you could have a lot of fun with it. Anyway, so that's kind of my idea. That's pretty much my idea for a Blade video game. Like I said, Chris and I, Mount Vernon Kid and I, are going to do like a top 10 list for other characters that should get the Insomniac treatment, like Spider-Man and Wolverine are doing. But that's not. But I'm going to wait until he's fully situated and moved into his house, and then we'll collab for that video. But I wanted to do this video, and I know Chris is going to have a lot of cool ideas for that, so stay tuned for that on his channel. And you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you guys think of the idea of Blade getting a video game? Do you guys like the idea? Do you guys hate the idea? Who would you have in it as boss fights or characters guest starring? Stuff like that. And as always, if you want to see like some more exclusive content, go check out my Patreon, become a Patreon there, and you guys, if you hit the 4th tier, you can have me do Patreon requests, which there's still a few I need to do. I'm getting to that. Anyway, but other than that, I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.